Why am I... Now I'm hearing echoes again.
Hard Rock.
To be fair, and to be perfectly honest, the software is AI driven, and it's possible that the AI decided that this show was not worth recording.
Hard Rock.
No one hears an echo but me.
Hard Rock.
When people ask why I tend to work with the same bands over and over again, there's really your answer.
Hard Rock.
And people just don't care. So, like, at that point, like, what are we even discussing?
Hard Rock.
Everybody from New York and New Jersey was paying attention, was like, what do you mean by successful businessman? Because that dude just tanked a casino in Atlantic City.
Hard Rock.
So if you're mad about that, I have an entire right wing of the party for you to discuss this with.
Hard Rock.
All the stuff you have to remember is just mind-boggling. Or if you're a fan of Blades of Glory, it's mind-bottling.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations. Any show that starts off with a sigh like that is going to be a good or bad show. Welcome to the Hard Rock Lunchbox, and of course the top 20. Today is August 3rd, 2023, and I gotta tell you, it has been a very long year. I'm enjoying what's going on here with my hair. Hang on. I don't know why I wear a hat because like my hair gets all messed up and caught under my headphones, but it looks all frizzy, but it looks even more ridiculous when it just pops out the front like a unicorn. But what are you gonna do? I'm set up a new camera today. I am using a Lumina camera. It does some pretty cool stuff. I was pretty excited about what it was going to do. And then it became much more difficult to use. I tried setting it up last week to make sure I could at least get it working. I downloaded all the drivers, everything that anybody that's ever installed anything on a computer has had to do. I did all that. It turns out it actually doesn't have any recording software on it, which is not a huge deal, but I was like, that's so weird that you don't do the thing. I mean, it's mainly for live streaming, I guess, so you just hook into like Zoom or Facebook or I don't even know what all the streams are these days anyway, but like, so it looks like you just kind of hook into that, and that's kind of fine. But so now I'm hearing echoes again. Hello? Checking. Anyway, everybody knows that it's always fun when we have this situation happening. I mean, it's not fun for me. I assume it's fun for you, so that's going to be good. Anyway, so I set all that up, and then I just had to get a new software. I'm using OBS, so it should be okay. That's pretty tried and true for most people. But I went to go turn it on today, and the camera I have has two modes, right? It has the one where it's just the raw feed, and that's like, hi, raw feed. That's the one I'm using right now, but it also has the ability to use all the software. Now, to be fair, and to be perfectly honest, the software is AI driven, and it's possible that the AI decided that this show was not worth recording. And honestly, I don't even know that you could disagree with something. But I couldn't get the AI to work. So now you just get me, you get my raw feed, which is disappointing actually, because some of the stuff that it looked like it could do looked pretty cool. Now, I'm getting the feeling that I started everything in the wrong order, but since I was already running late, it wasn't really something I could go back and do, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Well, it'll show up. I mean, if you're watching this, then you're seeing right now what happens. But for the rest of us that are listening to it live, back on August 3rd, I guess we'll just wait and see. It doesn't affect the audio at all. Looks like we're good. No one hears an echo but me. Yep, thank you. Appreciate that. That's usually the way it goes. Yeah, so I can address the chat, which I never do, apparently, but I'll address the chat. Yeah, so lots of stuff going on in little Revel 9 world and sandbox scene. Side Out, first Revel 9 song in 3 years. 3 years? Yeah, 3 years, comes out tomorrow. I am super excited about it. I'll be talking about that in just a little bit. And then we have a very large show, a very large sandbox-based show on Saturday night at the Warehouse. It's got a lot of factors and variables that are making it incredibly difficult for some reason, more difficult than it really needs to be, but I think it's going to be okay because the people that are involved in performing, nobody's giving me a hard time. None of the bands are giving me a hard time at all, which is fantastic. It makes my job easier, so I appreciate that. When people ask why I tend to work with the same bands over and over again, there's really your answer. It's not that I'm looking for, kind of just repetition, but we can really get stuff done. And as I kind of keep saying here over and over, here to you, in my personal life and in my professional life, I'm really running maxed out at a lot of these things, and I'm having trouble getting stuff done. That's why so much less is getting done out of the Revel 9 universe. And like I said, it doesn't really seem like anybody's picking up the slack scene-wise, which is fine. I don't need anybody to do that. But the reason that I'm opting to do things that are a little bit easier or seem a little bit easier or will go smoother is because if I work with people that I can trust to just do their job, then I can really focus on the rest of the stuff. I was even talking to the people at the Warehouse about the show, and I was like, we're still not listed under the Facebook events for this show. And not that it matters, because Facebook is, whatever. But, people that go to the Warehouse tend to be a little bit older, and they're the ones still currently ruining Facebook. So it matters that they are able to see this thing. So I actually asked. I was like, why aren't we on there? And they were like, well, you have to make us a co-host of the event. And since this isn't my first spin around the sun, I knew that and had created the event with them as co-hosts, to which they said, I don't know why that wasn't accepted. And I don't know either, but not that it's annoying, but it's it was another job I had to do because somebody over there didn't do their job. So when I work with the bands that I work with, I just don't have, there's no real issues. I haven't heard from Jimmy or Mikey or James or Dylan about anything else. The one thing we're waiting on is load-in times because I haven't heard from the sound guy at the Warehouse. The bands haven't done anything. The band said, yes, we'll play. How long do I have to plan a set for? All basic stuff they need to know. The only answer I haven't been able to give them is when we're loading in because they haven't given me the answer yet. So it's just I love that. I love that I can just do that. Here, let's do a show. You want to do a show? Cool. So we'll meet you here on this day and we'll go. So when people used to give me a hard time about why I was working with the same bands over and over again, a lot of times it's just easier to do that. And my advice to up-and-coming bands is make yourself easier to work with. It's actually the one thing that Revel 9 really kind of stood out, even in the G. Davy days. We really stood out like that. We agreed to it, it got done. And promoters across the Northeast knew that about us. I have bands now, younger bands that I'm trying to work with or asking on shows. It's constantly a no or it's a problem or whatever. I have to tell you, I am so not in the mood for, inviting or asking these bands onto shows anymore because if the answer is always going to be a no, why even waste my time? I have a band I'm going to ask onto our Beery show. It's literally going to be the last time I ask them onto a show because they've turned me down a couple times. So it's, and that's fine, and it's no slight of them. If they don't need me, then good luck to you. But, I can't keep doing all this extra work just to, help other people onto shows. There's plenty of bands that are asking to be part of things. I'm trying to keep it diverse enough so that people are interested in going and not necessarily seeing the same show over and over again. I know that this show it's us, Craving, and Something Heavy, so it's kind of like a repeat of the last Beery show, but neither Craving nor Something Heavy are playing the Beery show, the Halloween show that we're doing in October, but Bacon Is My Passion is. So while it's kind of the same sort of flavor, it's going to be kind of a little bit different, and that's good, but I'm asking other bands onto that. Plus, this was mentioned in the chat, I did finally figure out how to put together another Long Island Rock Unplugged. We're going to try it on a Friday. It's going to be Friday, December 8th in December. So that's going to be fun. It's also going to be interesting. We'll kind of see how it goes. But more details on that as we get closer to that. But I guess in the meantime, we should probably go through housekeeping, considering we're halfway through the top 20, if not more. So, brand new top 20 is out today. The episode is Brain Trust Assemble. and talk about like how my brain just does what it wants, and that's fine. I did apologize to Mikey about the whole Indiana thing, so you want to check that out. For those of you right-wingers that listen to my show, which I'm assuming is 1 or 2 at most, that is called an apology and a retraction. It is what responsible news journalism does when they make a mistake. I know you don't know what that is because you watch Newsmax and Fox, and they never, ever do that. It's part of corporate policy to not do that, which is why I don't watch them anymore. Unless, of course, I'm at the gym and it's on anyway. But it's a good idea to keep an eye on what's going on in Fox because, man, you want to talk about bad news? Jesus. Not bad news like, oh, man, somebody died, but like bad news as in poor quality journalism. It is just stunningly bad over there. So I would check that out. The birthplace lottery, we're talking about being born in America, being your life. Just look at the stupid show. It's fine. It's on Strangerhood TV. Also on Strangerhood TV, you can check out Bacon is My Podcast, always having something going on. The discussions and drinks. I do want to watch this one. I just haven't had a chance. It's about band scene dynamics. Excuse me, and why to or why not to take opening slots on shows. I probably have a lot to say about that, so I'll probably either comment on it or grab it for next week, and then we can talk about it then, and then blah, 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 blah. Bunch of other stuff. Like I said, the warehouse is Saturday. You can buy your tickets online if you want. It looks like there's a service fee to it, so I probably would just recommend buying at the door. There are no tickets from the bands, so door looks cheaper. But again, I've never even been to the warehouse, so I'm not even sure how it's all set up. I tried to go a little bit earlier to just sort of check the layout. I just didn't have a chance. That's not unsurprising. And of course, Side Out comes out tomorrow on all streaming platforms. It'll be... I even just did the YouTube post for it, so it'll premiere tomorrow, tonight at midnight 01. The lyric video for Side Out will come out exactly 2 weeks from tomorrow. It's actually pretty cool. I like the job that the dude did on it, so be sure and check that out. We're going to try and roll out a little bit more content on Revel 9 as we roll out these singles. It'll probably be pretty formulaic. Probably, song, lyric video, playthrough or two. Maybe some commentary from me if I feel so inclined to get in front of a camera on purpose. Probably not, but maybe. We'll just do those kinds of... Maybe some shorts. I could probably do some shorts, right? Can't be repulsed by all this in that short of amount of time, so maybe we'll try and get that done. So, yeah. So that's kind of that, right? So that's probably it for housekeeping. I don't really know what to talk about in terms of what's going on in the world. I do find it amusing what's going on politically with all the indictments of former President Trump. Like, however you feel on the issue, like, it's kind of irrelevant. I just think it's funny that the dude that they picked up for the Gilgo Beach murders is already guilty as far as everybody's concerned, and they have kind of not a lot of evidence so far that they've released to the public, other than saying that he did it. And they've actually released plenty of information and video clips and audio clips of President Trump admitting to crimes. Whether or not you think they're crimes is irrelevant. I'm not here to argue that. But they have these clips of him actually saying these things and doing these things and bragging about them and stuff like that, especially when it comes to like the documents. And definitely what's going to happen next in Fulton County, Georgia, because I think we've all heard the tape where he was talking to Secretary of State Raffensperger about finding the 11,000 whatever votes. Like, we have actual information that we've all heard, and it's definitely a crime. Again, whether or not you think it's a crime is irrelevant. It is. It's breaking a law. And yet 47% of Americans or Republicans are still going to vote for Donald Trump for president. Like, the dude committed a crime, like, and said so. And people just don't care. So, like, at that point, like, what are we even discussing here? Like, what are we even discussing? I don't remember if I was saying it here or if I was saying it in rehearsal or I was entering it into as a comment. But the reality is now, like, any single time I talk to anybody that is a Trump-leaning or pro-Trump Republican, like, the very next thing, and what comes up when you ask them the why, like, the very next thing that comes up is, I said it here, it's either racist, homophobic, or misogynistic, or whatever. Like, it just, It just is. So, like, you can't argue with that. Like, if somebody is mad about, you know, all these women or minorities or trans, or if they're just mad about all those people, then they're going to identify with the person that also identifies with them, that's going to protect them from all those things they're afraid of. There is no changing their mind. And really, it's... And I'm not making this comparison, although the Trump administration did actually... the Trump legal team did make the analogy to Nazi Germany, which I thought was funny in terms of the prosecution of these alleged crimes and these indictments. But really what you need to understand about, like, pre-World War II Germany and the rise of like fascism and the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler specifically is that he was a brilliant orator, and he was convincing people what the solution to their problem was. And, like, just quickly on the history thing, like, Germany was, like, really kind of dicked over at the Treaty of Versailles. Although, not to get all recursive in my fractal discussions here, I did watch a very interesting thing not too long ago about the Treaty of Versailles, and they basically were saying that it wasn't really as bad as it seems for the time. It was a fairly typical kind of punitive treaty. I mean, don't forget, for years Europe was constantly fighting, like in this, you know, from the 1700s, from the Napoleonic Wars on. I mean, earlier too, but like from the Napoleonic Wars on, Europe constantly fighting. Empires all over the place constantly fighting each other. It's obviously way different than it is now. But it was still a very punitive treaty, and, you know, punished Germany severely, just ruined their economy, ruined their whatever. So people start talking about, like, nationalism, and, like, people want to be proud of the Germanic and Aryan races and all that other stuff, but they can't, because they really got their asses kicked in World War I, and that's, you know, kind of like what you see with the South and their Confederate flags and Southern pride and statues of generals. Like, dude, you lost, man. You lost. You know why they don't have ticker tape parades for the team that loses the Super Bowl? Because they lost. That's why. Nobody's glamorizing that. I mean, it's still an impressive feat. I mean, you got to fight the number one power in the world, but you still lost, right? So that's kind of what was going on in Germany. So, like, there was a lot of anger, and people were, you know, broke, and, you know, because man, I gotta tell you, nothing really fuels that stuff like having nothing to do, like no jobs, no family, none of that stuff. Like, you just sit around, you be mad all day long, like, all of a sudden some of that stuff seems pretty good. And with the rise of that Nazism and fascism and stuff, with Hitler, like, he was able to sort of orate his way into the hearts and minds of a lot of the German people. And then it started becoming like a really bad thing that people were not sort of agreeing with this thing. And if you've ever argued with a Trump supporter, you see just how quickly they get really super violent about stuff and really, really aggressive. Like, very few times since his presidency have I ever had a discussion with somebody that was pro-Trump and that it wasn't, like, excessively violent or verbally abusive. Before, it was like, yeah, man, I like his ideas and all that other stuff. And there were a lot of people out of the tri-state areas like, well, he's a successful businessman, so maybe he could actually fix the economy. And everybody from New York and New Jersey that was paying attention was like, what do you mean by successful businessman? Because that dude just tanked a casino in Atlantic City. And obviously he wasn't able to do it, because as much as the Republicans and the right wing want to paint the economy one way, the economy tanked under Trump's watch. And as of right now, the economy is actually doing better than it was before COVID. That's, you know, based on the metrics that you use to measure an economy, that's pretty good. Everyone's 401k and all their stocks have recovered since pre-COVID. Like, that's a pretty big deal. Like, COVID was 2020, right? It's 2023. 3 years to turn around an economy. We did not have a recession. We did not have a depression. We had no market crashes, really. I mean, we had the big dip from COVID because no companies were making money, but it didn't actually crash. So I think that's pretty good. So all these people before, like, you could have those conversations with, they're not really talking so much about that anymore because the economy's doing better. And that's really all all they want to do. The only problem we've hit with the economy is that Fitch just downgraded the U.S. rating from AAA to AA+. And the main reason they did that was because of the amount of debt we had, but also the volatility over the debt talks, which is something the Republicans did just a few months ago. They pushed us right to the very edge, and we were all like, you can't default on the debt, man. Like, that's just the deal. And they were like, well, let's see what happens. Well, this is what happened. So if you're mad about that, I have an entire right wing of the party for you to discuss this with, because that's the deal. And I really didn't want to talk about politics at all. I actually wanted to talk more about the U.S. women's national soccer team and their just pitiful performance against Portugal. Like, I was embarrassed for the first time ever watching the U.S. women's national team. I was embarrassed for how they were playing. And I got to tell you, man, I am just so not looking forward to their play against Sweden, which will be super early morning on the 5th, 6th? I don't even remember. It's coming up, and I'm just not looking forward to it at all. It's one of the things I really look forward to, and I feel like people are ruining it, and that sort of sucks. I also wanted to talk about how difficult it is to put out a single these days, and not difficult in the way that it was like physical labor, but all the stuff you have to remember is just mind-boggling. Or if you're a fan of Blades of Glory, it's mind-bottling. So maybe I'll get to that during the rest of the show. Maybe I'll just fall asleep. I literally have no idea. But I know that Side Out will be coming out tomorrow. For the next roughly 90 minutes, I'll be playing some music for you. And we can talk about whatever you want on the chat. 99WNRR.com will get you there. Some sort of obnoxious comment will certainly get my attention. And then we'll just sort of take it from there. Cool?